Hey, and welcome everyone. Today on Skylines Summer Session, myself and Gregor Suttie are joined by Adam Bertram. Among other things, Adam is a Microsoft MVP from Indiana in the US. Welcome, Adam. It's great to have you on the show today. I hear today you're going to talk to us about PowerShell. So to kick things off, tell us a bit about yourself and your job and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. So, as you said, I am Adam Bertram. I have been doing this tech thing for, I don't know, about 22 years, something like that. I've been in IT. Nowadays, I'm primarily do just a lot of automation, a lot of cloud stuff. I'm a consultant, blogger, freelance writer, MVP, doing the community thing, the conferences and user groups and all that good stuff. Mostly around, nowadays, around PowerShell, Azure, DevOps, and that sort of thing.
Okay, Adam, I've got a question for you. So what is the difference between PowerShell and PowerShell Core?
Well, I did a series for a blog series for Skylines on this, and one of the first ones was, what is the big difference between them? So there's technically three names for PowerShell nowadays. So there's Windows PowerShell, which was the original PowerShell that came with Windows Management Framework back in the XP days, and then since then it's turned into PowerShell Core, which was more focused on the .NET Core. So Windows PowerShell was based on .NET Framework. PowerShell Core was based on .NET Core, which then it went cross-platform. So PowerShell Core is available on Windows, Mac, Linux, that sort of thing. And then since then, as of version 6.2, I can't remember the version that the name changed, but they officially changed the name from PowerShell Core to just PowerShell. So now, technically, when you say PowerShell, it could be either Windows PowerShell, PowerShell Core, or the new name for PowerShell Core, which is PowerShell. So there's, I guess, technically two iterations. The one's cross-platform and open source, and also Windows PowerShell, the one that's kind of been there forever in Windows.
Sounds quite interesting. So with PowerShell, you can use modules and stuff. What's your sort of go-to module you use on most days?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about a good answer for this, and really, the module that I'm kind of using the most now is just one that based on Trello. So I use Trello a lot. I created a module called Power Trello a few years ago, and really that's kind of the one that I use the most, because I use Trello for project management, task management, to manage all the articles, the blog articles, and that sort of thing. But really, that was kind of that's probably the most used one that I use at the moment, the one that I created. Yeah, it's pretty much across the board, because I kind of use PowerShell to kind of be the universal automation language for nearly everything under the sun.
Okay, Adam, so I'm a big Visual Studio guy because I'm a developer, but there's PowerShell ISE, which I used to use, and there's also Visual Studio Code. What do you use when you're kind of creating PowerShell scripts, and why? What's your preferred tool?
Yep. So I started out just like a lot of other people. I started out with the PowerShell ISE, used that for years, and since Visual Studio Code was introduced, I always had the problem with the PowerShell ISE that I was writing in other languages. So JSON, YAML, I even did some Ruby and Chef back in the day, and PowerShell ISE is just for PowerShell. So I wanted to use a more universal code editor. So then I switched to Visual Studio Code back, it was in like before version 1, I think. And since then it's drastically improved. So I use Visual Studio Code on a daily basis, have lots of different extensions, the PowerShell extension, the Terraform extension, the ARM templates extension, all the different extensions that I need. That's the great thing about Visual Studio Code, is that you can kind of plug in the functionality that you need in the form of extensions, and that's what I use significantly. I use Visual Studio Code every day on my Mac.
Awesome, yeah. I myself love Visual Studio Code too. So I hear you've got a nice demo for us today with PowerShell, so take it away.
Yeah, sure. Let me see here. See if I can get this going. I can share my screen. All right, I'll just leave it like this. Okay, so to kind of explain what I'm going to be doing here. So the demo that I prepared is essentially for beginners and intermediate PowerShell users to how to notice patterns when you're writing PowerShell, and how to kind of encapsulate those patterns into functions. So one of the most powerful things about PowerShell is the ability to create functions to do whatever you need to. And I've kind of built that demo out to provide a simple demonstration of kind of establishing a pattern, noticing a pattern when you're writing code, and then building a function around it. So first thing I want to do here, I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as a pattern is concerned. So I'm coming from the scenario of I want to, I'm in Azure, I use PowerShell on a regular basis to manage different Azure resources, and I want to authenticate to my Azure subscription, and to do that, I run Connect AZ account. However, there are times when, let's say that I want to run Azure's PowerShell scripts on different computers, so different machines, and I may not be authenticated all the time, but sometimes I may be authenticated. I want to create a function that will enable me to first check and see if I'm authenticated, and then if I am, then go ahead and authenticate and create the Azure context on your machine. So just to start off with, let's first run get AZVM. So let's say that I'm just on a machine and I just want to run get AZVM. Oh, I am already authenticated. So let me remove my context here. All right. So let's say that I run get AZVM and it says no subscription found because I'm not, I don't have a context in there. So that's fine. I run get AZ context to see if I'm in there. If I have a context, right, I am authenticated, and it says it's no response. Okay, so then if I know I would run this first, I would run get AZVM, whatever the command that I'm actually running that I need to gather Azure resources. Then I run get AZ context to see if I need to authenticate. And when I see nothing here, when I don't have any kind of context, then I need to run Connect AZ account. So I run Connect AZ account. I have to go through all of this rigmarole in PowerShell Core. I do want to mention here that I am running PowerShell Core 7. So the logic and the instruction that I'll be showing you here is about the same for about any PowerShell version, but in this example, I'm using PowerShell 7 on my Mac. So, all right, so I've authenticated, and you see that I have authenticated to my Visual Studio Premium with my MSDN subscription here. All right, great. That's good if you need to, it's fine if you need to do this one time. You know, that didn't take very long, just took a few seconds to run your command, whatever you're doing, get AZVM, get AZ context to check and see if you're authenticated, and if you're not, then you're fine, you're connected. However, if you need to do that over and over and over again, it's going to be pretty old. Manually coming in here and typing in get AZVM, oh, I got an error. Then typing in get AZ context, oh, I didn't return anything. Okay, I'm not authenticated. And then run Connect AZ account again, go through all the rigmarole. This is a really good pattern that you need to recognize whenever you're writing code. It's a really good opportunity to write a function. That's one thing that so we're going to write a function, pretty simple function here in this demo. All right, so a function is made up of the function keyword here, and the function name. In this case, I'm just going to call it Connect Azure. Whenever you create your functions or commands in PowerShell, you always want to make sure they are in the verb-noun syntax, because they are officially quote unquote approved. You can really create a function any way you want, but it's usually better to write it in the verb-noun syntax, because that's kind of the best practices, community guidelines, and that sort of thing. So this is a function. You have your function keyword, your name, and your commandlet binding. You don't technically need this, but it is another good best practice, because providing this commandlet binding keyword here provides you the lots of benefits of a actual commandlet in PowerShell. So let me copy this one in, and I'll show you what I mean here. So let's say that we have Connect Azure, and right now it doesn't have any parameters at all. It's on line 20 there on the param block. I don't have any parameters. However, when I hit dash and start hitting tab, you can see that I have lots of different available parameters. These are common parameters that are available on any PowerShell commandlet or any advanced function that I've created here using the commandlet binding keyword. And then finally here you see param with open paren, closed param. This is the param block where we can eventually add parameters. We'll be doing that here in just a minute. All right, so next up is, which we have kind of the scaffolding built. I kind of call this the scaffolding. This is kind of the metadata that creates a function, but it doesn't really do much. For example, I can call Connect Azure and it's going to do nothing because there is no code inside of here. The next step, whenever I want to take a pattern that I've noticed in my code and then migrate that into a function, I'll first then move all of that code into the logic area or the block here. Here you can see that I've just put get AZ context, connect AZ account, the two commands that I need to run at the same time, the pattern or the workflow, I guess if you will, that need to be run at the same time every time. However, I'm not going to put this into my session here because what this will do is it'll just simply run get AZ context. It'll either return, for example, right here, I think I have a context already on my machine. It'll return a context, and then even if it does return a context and it is authenticated to Azure, it's still going to just run connect AZ account anyway because there is no logic in here. This is the one thing we need to do. We need to really move the decision making into code because if you notice up here, we made that decision in our minds as we were going through here because we would run get AZ command. They would even notice, oh, we received an error. Then we just inherently knew to run get AZ context, and then if that returned nothing, then we would run connect AZ account. We did that all in our head. We need to really focus on moving what's in our head into code, and that's when we need to create some logic. So adding on to the function that we're building here called connect Azure, here now we can add logic. So in this logic here, we were saying get AZ context. If it returns nothing, so if this returns null, nothing at all, then run connect AZ context, get AZ, connect AZ account. If it's not, so if it does return something in AZ context, it's going to say you were already connected. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'll bring this in. Try this again. All right, bring that in my session. And now let's first see if we are actually authenticated with get AZ context. Okay, so we have a context available. So we are officially authenticated to Azure. So when I run connect Azure, now you can see that it doesn't prompt me for anything. It just says you are already connected. There's no reason to go through all the rigmarole. We just typed in one command and it didn't prompt us to do anything. It just kind of went through. And so we were already connected. However, let's say that I'm not authenticated at all and I don't have a context. So let's run get AZ context, remove AZ context. So now I don't have a context. Now when I run connect Azure, now you can see that it's prompting me to authenticate again. And I'll go ahead and do my authentication dance on my other screen here. Wait for it. There we go. And then you run connect Azure again. And then it says you're already authentic or already connected. So that's kind of the power of the function. It encapsulates a single task or set of tasks into one kind of unit to save you time to really take a lot of the decision making out of your head and really put it into functions, into this little kind of building block, I guess, if you will. So taking that a step further, so right now that you notice that I was just simply highlighting all this, hitting F8, I could have copied it directly and pasted it directly into the console. But whenever I start the the console again, whenever I stop it and restart it again, the function is going to be completely gone. It's just it's ephemeral in the session. So what I want to do is save this function to a script. So this is one way that we can make functions available across sessions. So let's say that I want to come over here and I'm going to put this function, call it connectazure.ps1. I'm going to put it in my home folder. All right, so let's call it connectazure.ps1. There we go. So now it's saved in a PowerShell script called connectazure.ps1. Great. All right, so now what we're going to do, I'm going to have a little trick here so you don't. So I'm just going to remove this. This is the same thing as removing it from the local session. So now when I run connect Azure, it's going to say it's not available because it's not available at the moment. That's kind of the same thing as restarting the console again. I just removed the function from memory. All right, so now I have the function in my in a script. Now I'm going to do a concept called dot sourcing. Dot sourcing is a way that that allows you to bring in the functions and other objects into your current session. So typically, when you run a PowerShell script, let's say that this PowerShell script says something like, "Hello." Whenever you run it, run the PowerShell script. I'm going to run it here. It just says hello. It executes whatever code that you have inside of the script. However, when you have a function, functions don't automatically execute. You load in a function, you import a function a number of different ways into a PowerShell session. So now that Connect Azure script that we have here just has a function in it. There's nothing else. Now, whenever you run Connect Azure, it does nothing at all. It actually did something because it loads it in. So what I do now is I can do a dot, start a dot and then a connect azure.ps1. That does a concept called dot sourcing, which brings in the connect Azure function inside of your current session. So now when I run connect Azure, you can see that the function is available and it works as we need it to. Now that's another way of bringing it. We can copy and paste it in just like I was earlier, or we can dot source it in to bring this function available in our current session. Now, even if you dot source it in, whenever you restart the console, it's not going to be persistent. What you can do in this, another good example of this is to use the profile. I'm not going to go through the profile in depth here because I don't really have I don't know if I have one in here, but the PowerShell profile is really it's just another PowerShell script that PowerShell itself runs whenever a new session is invoked. So you can put anything in here, anything you want to bring into your current session. So for example, in here, let's say that I don't have the folder. There's a folder called PowerShell. In this case, I'm on my Mac, so it's users, Adam, config, PowerShell. If you're on Windows, this is in your user profile in the documents folder, I believe. So let's say that this profile, there's a profile that exists on every PowerShell console, every PowerShell machine out there. It's looking for a profile. In this case, you can see that it uses the VS Code profile. That's another, I won't go into the profiles, but there's there's different profiles for different PowerShell hosts. It's kind of an advanced topic, but suffice it to say, there is some profile that gets executed whenever you invoke a new PowerShell session. So let's say that I want to have that dot source, have that command dot source whenever I run my PowerShell session. I will go ahead and just put this in here, the dot source. So I'm doing the exact same thing before. I'm dot sourcing that in to bring that function into memory. And I will go ahead and save that. And then now whenever I'm not going to restart my console or anything, but now once you have that dot source inside of your PowerShell, now I can run, if I could type right, Now I can run cat or get content of the profile. Now you can see that my Connect Azure is dot sourced in there, and it will be available when I invoke my PowerShell script over and over and over again. All right, so that's all fine and good. We built the PowerShell function. We understood the pattern. We built the function. We now have it persistent in our profile. So now let's see here, and let's take it one step further and add a parameter to it. So let me first remove all the contexts that I currently have. Let me make sure they're all gone. Yep. All right, so I removed all of these, and now I'm taking it to the next level. So I'm introducing a parameter to the function. Now, function parameters are a way that you can customize the code, the logic. You can customize the behavior of the function whenever it's created. So if you notice up here, we don't have anything in the param block. We simply called Connect Azure on its own. Connect Azure, hit enter, and since I'm not authenticated, it's going to prompt me. I'll just go ahead and do that again real quick. But notice that we didn't provide any kind of parameters whatsoever. Like we couldn't specify how the code ran, if there are any different subscription names, any different tenants, anything like that. We couldn't actually pass any information to the function itself. So now I've introduced a parameter here. You can introduce any kind of different parameters that you want. It all depends on what values you need to pass down here into the meat of the function, if you will, like I like to call it. So in this instance, I've created a parameter called subscription name. So you can see here I have $subscription name, and it is a string. Now, technically, this right here, the parameter declaration or definition, isn't necessarily needed if you're not going to assign any parameter attributes to it or not. But this is kind of my style. I like to always put the parameter definition here in case I need to add, a parameter attribute, like, I don't know, like mandatory, or change it to a parameter set, or all kinds of different parameter attributes. So we're not going to go much into that. But and then you don't have to put this string type. This declares the type of the variable here. So right now I have just subscription name, and you can see it as a string because it starts with it starts with quotes. It ends in quotes. And the subscription name is Adam the Automator. That is the name of my Azure subscription. If this was a number, this type would probably be int, or if it was a Boolean value, it could be Boolean, or it could be something like a PS custom object, or anything like that. But for now, it's just a simple string. All right, so then coming down into the logic, you can see now that we've introduced some additional logic. So unfortunately, the get AZ context list available doesn't actually return a nice list of subscription names. So you can see here the name. It has Adam the Automator, my Visual Studio Premium with MSDN, and then it has the GUID, the subscription ID after it. So what this is doing here is parsing out Adam the Automator, parsing out Visual Studio Premium with MSDN, the actual subscription name. It's parsing those out. It's actually parsing this here. So this actually takes and looks at the subscription name. So if it says this first here, it says if the subscription name, if we don't already have a context for the subscription name provided, which by default is Adam the Automator, if you don't put anything in the subscription, it's just going to provide Adam the Automator, then connect AZ account and provide the specific subscription name. Else, it's just going to say you already have a context for Adam the Automator. All right, so let's bring this in, see what this looks like. All right, now when I call Connect Azure, now you can see that I have a subscription name, and I also have all of the other common parameters since we use that commandlet binding. So now I can type Connect Azure and hit enter, and now it's going to say you already have a context for Adam the Automator because it used the default value for the subscription name here for Adam the Automator. All right, so now let's say that we have Connect Azure subscription name, and let's say we have this one. We want to see if we have a context for Visual Studio Premium with MSDN. And then it says you already have the context because whenever I my subscriptions are linked, and I always have those whenever I can use authenticate with my Adam the Automator email address. So what that does is that provides more logic, more flexibility into your function. It allows you to pass in different things like that. You can even put in mandatory. Let's say that you wanted to make sure that that commandlet or that parameter was always used. You can also put in mandatory here, and it will force you to also to do that as well. So that was kind of a that's kind of my demo of a simple function. Functions can be, you know, extremely advanced and do all kinds of different fun things. But I'm sure Gregor and Richard would fall asleep on me if I went through the whole spiel of what functions are and demos and all that good stuff. So that's kind of what I kind of had of a good idea to how to build a function for beginners.
Awesome. That was really, really cool. I like the use of the function and adding it to your profile so it's always available. For our viewers, they're probably wondering, where can they learn all of this cool stuff? So where can they learn it? Where's the best resources?
Gosh, I could say Skylines number one, but there are plenty of others. I've done a 12-part. I don't know if all of them are out yet, but I've done a big series on this, the PowerShell functions. I've also done, there's some things on modules, I believe, in the 12-part blog series for the Skylines blog. But I've also done, there's a ton of stuff on my blog, adamtheautomator.com. I've also done the courses for a site, LinkedIn Learning, all the common training courses and things like that. Essentially, I mean, really for PowerShell, if you want a good forums, are the PowerShell.org forum. There's a really active, over 100,000 members now on Reddit, on the PowerShell subreddit, which is really good as well. So if you have any questions on PowerShell, that's a good resource also.
Nice one. Okay, time for some fun questions now, Adam.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so your nickname's Adam the Automator. Can you tell us where that nickname actually came from?
Well, that came from many years ago, where my family and my friends always says that you are always looking for the most efficient way to do everything, because whenever for some reason I just hate doing anything twice. And I've always tried to think of, there has to be a better way. It's bad enough to where my wife is always saying to me, you're thinking too much. You're trying to automate this thing, and we're just going to do it once. It's kind of been a thing for me. It kind of stuck. So I kind of came up with that moniker for myself after my daughter was big into Bob the Builder at a time years ago, and I thought, Bob the Builder, Adam the Automator. That sounds about right. So that's kind of where it came from. And ever since then, it's just kind of been, that's pretty much me. That describes me to a T.
Well, that's cool. I like it.
So on Twitter, I've seen you've got quite a few RC cars, and like, how many do you actually have, and what's your favorite?
Yeah, so the RC thing, that's my wife's been telling me forever, you need to get a hobby. You need to get a hobby. You know, apparently work is not a hobby. So I decided to find an excuse to get out in the sunlight and actually get some vitamin D, which my doctor says I need more of. So I decided to start to get into that. And right now I've got, let's see, 4 of them now, two Traxxas cars. And those things are just amazing. Those RC trucks are amazing. You can get upgrade parts. You could change, they're just like little cars, and they're just amazing how tough they are also. I mean, those little things, you go from a toy, when you grew up with this little cute little $20, $30 little toy, then you get up to like the $1,000 hobby cars, and those things are just like insane. Like that little thing, we clocked it almost going 60 miles an hour down the road one day, and I was dragging my daughter behind it in a sled on the sidewalk and everything. Those things are just insane to play with. They're a little dangerous, but they're definitely insane to play with. So yeah, right now I've got about 4. I've constantly spending way too much money on those things and parts and breaking them and stuff, but it's a fun hobby.
Is it true you live next to a golf course, Adam? You know, fancy playing golf?
No, I'm not. I live on a golf course, but I've never played a round of golf in my entire life. The golf course is a great place to drive RC cars, though. I'm lucky, it's here this year. It got sold off to a school corporation. So now the golf course, they don't play golf anymore over there, but it's pretty much just like wide open and available to anyone. So yeah, we have a golf cart. We kind of take it around and go tearing around in the golf course and take the cars out there.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, that does sound fun. Nice one.
Yep.
Adam, thanks for your time as always. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. And I think both myself and Richard are going to go off and try and learn some PowerShell a bit more and take that for a spin. So thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you.